everyone, and welcome to my review looking back at the inaugural Miami Grand Prix weekend that we saw so many celebrities and stars attend the Grand Prix weekend, and not a bad weekend at all, which a top three of Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz, as I say, your top three at the Miami Grand Prix. As I've already mentioned, as I've just said, so many stars attending the Miami Grand Prix, and yeah, for me actually, it wasn't a bad race. Was it up until the safety car came out? Was it a bit of a procession? Maybe, but even then, there was still intrigue, and we did see plenty of close battles throughout the field, particularly on race day. So not a bad. I wouldn't say it was the most thrilling Grand Prix, but it wasn't a bad Grand Prix either. So yeah, not a bad weekend. Not a bad first weekend in Miami. So come on, start talking about Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Not the perfect weekend for Max and also Red Bull as well, and they certainly had their reliability issues, not just on race day but also on Friday as well. And considering the low level of running that Max had on Friday, when you consider that he put the car third in qualifying, actually that wasn't a bad effort from Max, and for him to be able to get by Carlos Sainz on that opening lap was crucial for him to then be able to close the gap then to Charles Leclerc and then to be able to get by. And yes, he was under pressure from the Monegasque in the closing stages after the safety car came out following Pierre Gasly and then Lando Norris incident. But Max was able to keep the Monegasque driver behind. Another titanic battle between both drivers, and I think we've already seen them go toe to toe with one another already plenty of times this season, and we've only had 5 races. We've still got plenty of races to go in 2022, and no, I think you just wonder with obviously that you have to say this year both of them when they've been um, in close contact in terms of on the track with one another in those close battles. Both of them have been, you have to say, been fair to one another. Whether it boils over at one point during this season, only time will tell. But at this moment in time, I think both drivers are battling each other fairly, and I think it's a great contest, and I think from a neutral's point of view, it can only be good for the sports now to see two rising stars. I know Max has had so many years' experience now in Formula One, and that's frightening considering how old he is. But as I say, Verstappen and Leclerc really are um, two of the future stars of Formula One, and see them going head to head as they are right now, I think is fantastic, and it can only be a good thing for Formula One as well. I'm sure some other youngsters will have something to say about that and them wanting to get involved in the battle at the front as well. But at this moment in time, we really are being treated to um, a fantastic battle between both Max and also Charles as well. And as I say, considering the low level of running that Max did have on Friday, I thought he did a good job in qualifying. I thought he did a great job on race day as well. And yeah, as a result of that, Max has been able to close the gap between himself and Charles in the drivers' championship, and also Red Bull closed the gap in the constructors' championship as well. And talking of Red Bull, talking of Sergio Perez, actually, you know what? It wasn't a bad weekend for Checo. Again, not perfect. I think sundown raised. I think Checo, had he not had reliability issues, where he complained of loss of power, without that, because at one stage as well in Sunday, I think Carlos had a slow pit stop, and I think Sergio's was quicker by about 2 seconds. Had it not been for the loss of power issues that Sergio was suffering from in race day, I think there's every chance that Sergio actually might have found himself third. on race day. So yeah, I think Sergio obviously he'll be disappointed not to finish on podium, but he continues to score more important points for the team as well. And I think Red Bull they needed that that reliable driver to be able to, even if they're not able to finish on the podium, still able to pick up big points. And Checo's certainly made a very good, I think, solid start to this year. He's third in the Drivers' Championship as well, and Red Bull have actually closed the gap in the constructors to Ferrari. So, yes, as I say, Checo didn't finish on the podium, but still finishing fourth. I think his qualifying, as I've mentioned in previous reviews and previews, I think his qualifying has definitely improved. Again, another top four for the Mexican. So he's definitely he's definitely improving on the qualifying, and he's had a solid start to this season as well. So yeah, not the perfect weekend for both Red Bull drivers, but a weekend that saw in the end Max Verstappen take race victory. So come on to talk about Ferrari finishing second and third on Sunday. Look, obviously they'll want to win. They would have liked to have won, but finishing second and third is not a disastrous result for Ferrari. So Charles Leclerc, great lap from him to put the car on pole on Saturday, and he did have his chances on Sunday. Got close on a couple of occasions in closing stages to get by Max, but just didn't quite have the straight line speed to be able to challenge the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. And then, so yeah, still Charles Leclerc finishing second, still finds himself leading the Drivers' Championship, and Carlos Sainz as well. Wasn't the most straightforward of starts the weekend, and we saw him have his incident in FP2, which saw him have that also saw Esteban Ocon have a similar incident as well in FP2. Sorry, Esteban Ocon had a similar issue to Carlos Sainz. In terms of what happened to the Spaniard in FP2. But I thought Carlos recovered well from that, so managed to get the car on the front row. Yes, he was able to, Verstappen was able to get by Carlos Sainz on the opening lap, but Carlos was able to keep Sergio Perez behind him, and he did play that team game. Obviously, Carlos will want to be winning races, but I think considering the previous two DNFs that he had, for him to get back onto the podium, that was important for him. So actually, not a bad result in the end for Carlos Sainz and for Ferrari as well, finishing second and third on race day. Now we come on to talk about Mercedes, and I'm a bit confused, as I'm sure they are as well. George Russell, another top five finish on race day. And yeah, he continues his fine form, and I think it's only on race day. It's only once this season that he's actually been beaten by Lewis Hamilton. So I think it just goes to show how good a job George Russell is doing right now. But as I say, in terms of being confused, Mercedes actually in FP2 look pretty quick, and they look good. I think George Russell ended up being quickest, and Lewis, I think if I remember correctly, I think he was fourth quickest in FP2. But then all of a sudden, Lewis did make it into Q3, but George Russell only ended up 12th quickest. So something obviously changed overnight on Friday, which then led to George not even making it into Q3 on Saturday. But I know the safety car did come out at the right time for George. But you've got to be in the right place at the right time to be able to pounce on on other people's on other drivers' issues. And George was able to do that, make his strategy work, and another fine performance from George Russell. And for me, he's got to be one of the stars of the season so far. Yes, Charles Leclerc. Yes, Max Verstappen. They're the only two drivers who've won races this year. But outside those two, you have to say George Russell is one of the stars of 2022 so far. And if Mercedes can really sort out their issues as soon as, then perhaps we may see Mercedes then challenging for race wins. Whether we see him challenging for the championship, who knows? I think it's difficult to. I think it's difficult to see them at this stage. But I keep saying this, and I'll say it again. If there's one team that can bounce back, it's Mercedes. So don't count them out just yet. And but as I say, George just continues to do a fine job for Mercedes, and Lewis seems to have met his match. It serves this year so far. But again, you can never write off Lewis, and we know that when Lewis is under pressure, he will always, 9 times out of 10, he will deliver. So yeah, don't count out Mercedes and don't underestimate them, and write them off at your peril. So another driver. So coming on to some other drivers now who had a really good weekend in Miami. Um, Valtteri Bottas finished seventh in Miami on race day. Could have been maybe fifth had he not kissed the wall in the closing stages of the race, which then enabled both Lewis and George to get by. But other than that mistake, I think Valtteri had another solid weekend for Alfa Romeo. Fine job in qualifying to get the car up to fifth. And you know what? It's great to see Valtteri doing well. Not saying that he didn't do a good enough job at Mercedes. Not saying that at all. But no, it's just good to see Valtteri not just enjoying, just appearing to see his racing, enjoying that, but also what he's doing away from the track as well. Following him on social, and it just looks like he's in a good place right now. So, yeah, I want to see Valtteri continue to, to do that, and yeah, good on Valtteri for the weekend that he had at Miami, and if he continues to um perform the way he is, then you know what, Alfa Romeo could have a pretty good season. And also Valtteri as well. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, Valtteri. And yeah, another fine job this weekend from the Finn. Another drive who had actually, well, not the best of starts to the weekend in Miami, but ended up picking up 4 valuable points for Alpine. Esteban Ocon. So we saw him have his instance, his crash in FP, I think it's FP3, might be wrong, which meant that he then was unable to participate in qualifying. But coming from the back of the grid, finishing eighth, and okay, the safety car, did come to his help, but as I say with George, you got to be in the right place, right time to pounce. And Esteban, was able to hit and put on the softs, and in the end, and yeah, 4 valuable points for Alpine. Great performance in the end from Esteban Ocon, and yeah, really good performance from the Frenchman, and not a bad haul of points for Alpine. And no, I obviously Alpine have not been at their total best this year, but I think in Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon, you've got two, really good drivers who will, I reckon, once Alpine get their, get not say get their act together, but once they can make the improvements to the car, because I still think there's a lot of potential in that Alpine. But once they start to fulfill that potential, then I can certainly see Alpine challenging for big points. But Esteban's just got to keep doing what he's doing. Yeah, as I say, good points for him. In Miami, not not the best of race days for Fernando. We saw him get a 5 second penalty for causing collision with Pierre Gasly. I do feel that was the right decision by the stewards. I think they got that right. But then we also Fernando then got an extra penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage as well. And again, I felt that was the right decision. So from the stewards. So yeah, obviously Alonso without those penalties, then he himself would have found himself in the points as well. So not to be for Fernando Alonso in Miami, but again, good points for Esteban Ocon. So another driver who actually started at the back of the grid and was able to finish in the points, Alexander Albon. Not the first time he's done that this season. Saw him do that in Australia, and he did it again in Miami. Okay, he's one of those drivers who was able to benefit from Fernando's penalty, but No, a really good drive for Alexander Albon, who no, who just seems to be getting at the moment seems to be getting the better of Nicholas Latifi at the moment. Even though Latifi's been at the team longer than Albon, but Albon seems to be you see, he's doing a solid job for Williams, and yeah, so really good job from Alexander Albon this weekend. And what was impressive actually was in FP2, again similar to Mercedes actually. I think Alex Albon was actually one of the quicker drives in FP2, but then all of a sudden the pace just seemed to have gone in qualifying. So yeah, bit of a question mark as to where that pace went from FP2 and then going into and then what happened in qualifying. But you got to give Alexander credit where it's due. You know, making your way through the field and then finishing ninth. I mean, you must have done something right. So yeah, really good points for Alexander Albon and another fine drive from the Thai driver, and also shout out to also Lance Stroll as well. So another points finish for Lance and also for Aston Martin as well. And look, Aston Martin are not where they want to be right now, but finishing in the points for two races on the trot now. So that will definitely give them confidence. And you know what? It wasn't actually a bad weekend for Lance. He was actually able to make it into Q3. I thought he did a great job in doing that. Really unfortunate in the fact that he had to start the race from pit lane. But he was able to make that one stop strategy work. So he was able to do that, and actually he was able to benefit from Fernando Alonso's penalty. And maybe you argue a bit of luck, and perhaps Lance has earned that look. So yeah, really good drive from Lance Stroll actually. Impressed with him last couple of races, and good to see him performing well. Really good to see the Canadian performing well, and yeah, happy for him. Even if it's just a solitary point, I'm sure that will give him confidence going into the rest of the season. So not a bad weekend at all in Miami. My prediction. So I did predict that two of the drivers that did finish on podium got that spot on. Although I did predict that Charles Leclerc would finish second. I didn't say that Max Verstappen would finish first. I predicted that he'd finish third and Perez would actually win the race, but that obviously didn't happen. But that but yeah, so that's the end of my review looking back at the Miami Grand Prix. So if you want to talk things Formula One, I'm at Baggies20 on Twitter and also on Instagram, Manish Patel 89. So I will be next be doing my preview for the Spanish Grand Prix as Formula One heads back to Europe, and look forward to catching up with all you guys and girls then. Take care, everyone.